Bronze and Modern Gods, your hopefully favorite comic book podcast. I'm John.
I am Richard.
I'm not going to make any assumptions. Maybe it's your favorite, as long as we're in your top 10.
Yeah, it's the only one you need to watch.
Now that's, well, that Richard said that, not me. I agree. Underrated books of the week coming up. We've got the 25-year rule. I did math this week, Richard.
Excellent.
2024 minus 25 equals 1999, not 1994. So, yes, we got that covered. And of course, we've got lots of viewer mail this week. But first, let's head right into the hot book of the week. Richard, I saw this and I thought, I bet Richard Brown will want this.
Blood Hunt #1, the 1 in 25 variant. Lionel Francis Yu is the artist here. It's a ratio cover, really?
What is this, 2021?
Yeah, it's a cool. Now the reason that John thinks it's this is my kind of thing is it's obviously inspired by the EC Crime Suspense Stories #22, the famous cover where a man is holding a woman's head and he's got a bloody axe in the other hand. And it's the same layout, the same kind of look and feel to it, which I think is cool. That's one of my favorite comics. If you're gonna homage something, you might as well do that.
Did you get it the first time you looked at it?
Pardon?
Did you get that that's what it was the first time you looked at it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I got where the reference was coming from, but it's drawn so strangely where the hand is cut off by the logo.
Yeah.
It looks like Thor's got, like it looks like Thor's holding the hammer by his head himself. I mean, it took me a few minutes to, his head's decapitated. I get it.
Yeah. Just the blood, dripping from his neck.
Yeah, and there's just the solid black under his head instead of the body. Like you can't tell if those are legs or a torso of someone. Poor layout. Sorry, Lionel Francis Yu.
Yeah, I agree. It is kind of, I caught it by the trade dress, and then the obviously focus on the head and the hammer that looks like an axe with the blood on it.
Right.
The thing is, on the actual cover, the blood is all black. There is no actual red blood anywhere. That's one of those, let's squeak by the rules.
It didn't work. It came up in that Senate hearing in the 50s.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is a talk about 1990s again. This is a sealed polybag red band version. That means it has more explicit content. Already selling for $50 on eBay. What do you think?
There's two reasons to buy this. One, you're interested in Blood Hunt as a story, or B, you're interested in homage covers to EC titles. I have not read Blood Hunt. I actually picked up a copy of Blood Hunt for Free Comic Book Day, so that's going to give me an opportunity to read it. But it just doesn't, just right at this moment, it doesn't excite me.
Polybags, variant covers, explicit versions. What's next? What's left? Glow in the dark.
Coming. Hologram.
Yeah, puffy 3D covers. The Forceworks fold out pop-up book. What
3D glasses and
speaking of Free Comic Book Day. Let's talk about Free Comic Book Day a little bit. You went to a few shops, did you not?
I did.
Yeah, where'd you go?
There's a shop here in the Cleveland area called Kid Force, which is a great shop. I buy all my supplies there, my bags and boards and things like that. And he's been doing Free Comic Book Days and he's been around forever. Normally his shop is really busy on Free Comic Book Day. We walk in and there's a long line, and there is a limited selection because people have been picking over them. This was not so bad. I didn't get to go until a little afternoon, which is not not the optimal time to go. You should have been there first thing. Walked in, got to, the books that were left, because a lot of the books that were a part of Free Comic Book Day were missing, but they had stacks and stacks of certain books. They had them separated into the kids' books and then the not kids' books. So the kids weren't digging around in some of the books that were a little bit more horror focused. And, I picked up, you limit of 4 books, so I picked up 3. I thought that was fair, and, I appreciated the fact that they offer, because you have to remember, the comic book store actually has to pay for these books. They're free to the public, but the comic book dealer actually pays for the books, so I appreciate it. I bought some bags and boards while I was there. So that was one shop. I went then later on, later in the day, probably about an hour or so, I drove down to Carol and John's. I've talked about Carol and John's before. It's a great shop, Cam's Corner, which is also in Cleveland. I've also been going there for 30 years, if not more. And I walked in. Well, actually, I got to the parking lot and I got out, and I went there for a signing for Chris Claremont last year. People remember me grousing about that. And for that, there was a line for Chris going all the way down the entire. This is in a shopping mall, in a strip mall, and there was a line going all the way down the length of the strip mall for Chris. Well, there was a line for Free Comic Book Day that went almost all the way down the line,
Wow.
the wall
What?
for comics, and I was surprised. Again, this is like 1:30, almost 2 o'clock. So it was surprising to see that many people. Now, and I looked in; they had a whole separate area set up for it, and I'm assuming they may have had some other opportunities to buy books there as well. It may not have only been Free Comic Book Day, but that was a part of it. I walked into the main shop, which is also right there. There is no free comic books in there, but there was a lot of traffic and a lot of people, and it's great for the business for these comic book shops. That one day a year, and the fact that it lined up with May 4th. Um, he had a whole wall of Star Wars comics, which was great. Um,
Now that's cool. There was a little bit of media coverage here in Southern California. I saw it on YouTube on some of the news stations. Do you have the books that you got for Free Comic Book Day with you? I have mine that I got from Pulp Fiction here in Long Beach. If you want to get those out, the one that I think you and I both wanted the most, I was able to get, and that was the stories from the Atlas Comics library
yeah,
with the Venus 19 cover. I'm surprised this is not more heavily desired and speculated upon from all the releases.
I am too. I didn't. That was not one of the books that was available to me when I went. But I looked on eBay. It's going for about $5, which,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll pay $5 for an unstamped book. Oh, by the way, that's another good point. If you're buying Free Comic Book Days, you see that little green box on the comic that John has right there. That box is there so that the comic book store can stamp it with their name of the shop, the address, telephone number, the pertinent information for the shop. If it's stamped, it will come back with a green label from CGC if you get it graded. So you're looking for the books that.
Umbrella Academy first appearance, notorious.
Yes, absolutely. So that's just a tip. Look for the books that don't have the stamp on them.
What else? What'd you get?
Well, we talked about Blood Hunt, so they had a copy of Blood Hunt #1
Hmm.
was there. So I picked up a copy so that I could read it. So
There we go.
I'm going to end up doing that here probably this evening just to get an opportunity to read it.
Someone gave me a tip that this was going to be out, and knowing my love for early Valiant, they were like, "Go pick it up, see if it's any good." So I did. It is the Valiants. I don't think I'm going to like it, but I'm going to try to read it with an open mind. The reason why I say I don't think I'm going to like it is because it's a complete reboot. None
Mm.
of my favorites are on this cover. I don't, I liked Solar. I liked Harbinger. I liked Magnus. It has Ninjak and Roku, like the TV stick Roku. Uh,
Yeah, I haven't heard of Ninjak in a long time.
Ninja. I mean, you've got this is the XOs and OG, so
Mm.
I'll allow it. But
Yeah.
you've got I don't know who that is. The woman on the left side, no idea. You've got Bloodshot and Ninjak, which
Mm.
is Valiant 2.0 post shooter. No
Mm.
interest. Pass. But I'll read it. I'll read it with an open mind. I swear to God. What else?
Excuse me. I got Spider-Man Ultimate Universe #1. for Free Comic Book Day. There
Cool.
is a huge stack of these. I have not read the Ultimate Universe books yet, so it's a great opportunity. I hear great things about it, so it's an
Mhm.
opportunity for me to catch up.
I had to grab this. Longtime listeners of the podcast know I could not pass up Snoopy Beagle Scout Adventures, all by Charles Schulz. None of the
Oh,
new stuff, so it's all Charles Schulz stuff. So
mhm.
uh, had to have it. Peanuts. Anything else?
Yep. The last book I got is, it was May the 4th, so May the 4th be with you.
Mhm.
Star Wars #1. I
Wow.
just thought it was appropriate to pick up.
What's it? Is it a new story? Is it a reboot of the OGs?
I do not know. I have not read it yet, so
Okay. Well, we'll discover together.
mhm.
One last one I had to get. And again, cheers to the people who tipped me off of this. Marvel Voices, the free comic book day Marvel Voices, whatever. Here we go with like Indian Spider-Man and like, all the various different characters. Someone said, John, you're going to want this. Someone in the DMs, please forgive me. I never write these down. I just start writing these down who tells me this stuff. So I give you credit. Like, check out the back cover of the Marvel Voices. Okay. All right. Don't mind if I do. Hey. It's
Eh,
Marvel Voices Pride, and you've got Herc cozying up to Bobby Drake Iceman there. And I thought, okay, I'm going to order this book. This is a must have. It's not a book, it's just a promotional art piece.
really?
There's nothing coming out unless you guys tell me if I'm wrong. If there's something coming out with this as a cover, you got to let me know. I love it. I don't even know who drew it. Yeah, Russell Dauterman. Never heard of Russell Dauterman. Great art. Don't know if he can tell a
Great.
story or not, but he can draw a good pinup. So
Mhm.
there you go. Just as promotional art. Doesn't say what for or if it's coming out, but God bless you, Russell. So free comic book day, kind of a success, you think?
Yeah, the crowds were impressive. I've been doing Free Comic Book Days for a long time, and I remember during the comic boom, there were lines. I didn't expect there to be lines for this year, but they were, and there was a really good turnout. So we also heard for our friend Eric from Comics Are Go, and he was saying that when he opened, there was 30 to 40 people in line waiting.
Love
So
it.
that's great. It's a great sign of health in the hobby.
All right. Well, moving on. Just a reminder, members. Hi, how are you? Are you not a member? Well, why not? For $2.99 a month, less than a Starbuck, more expensive than a free comic book, $2.99, but still affordable. You can show your support for the channel. We've got so many new members in the last month or so. Thank you guys. You guys know that you get live, exclusive member only streams on Thursdays. You get extra show and tell episodes on Wednesday, shout outs in future videos like this. Look at all the new names here. Get to join us on the live stream and show your books off. Last week we had Steven from Minor Keys Comics join us, and that was fun. And it helps Richard and I do more coverage for you. We're going to be at San Diego Comic Con. I'm going to Comic Con Revolution. We will both be at NEO Comic Con in August in Northeast Ohio. You want to join and help support? We love you. Just hit join right here on YouTube next to the subscribe button below. If you are not on YouTube, come over and do that. And we would love to have you. And
Absolutely.
maybe you can give us the energy to change to the show and tell screen. Show and tell. Richard, members saw this already, so they got a little sneak preview for everybody else. I got my CBCS submission from WonderCon back.
Mhm.
And if you are on Instagram, you saw the Yellow Claw Mexican editions I posted. Very cool. I like the labels. I got this back, my first authenticated signature series book. I got this in an auction a few years ago. I've had it, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get this authenticated. And sure enough, it is Conan the Barbarian, number 275, 9.2, signed right there across the logo
Mhm.
by writer Roy Thomas. What
That
do you
is
think?
awesome.
I love this cover. Colin McNeil. Wish he had done more stuff in the US, mostly British 2000 AD stuff.
Mhm. No, it's a great cover. I mean, the color on it is amazing. For those on the podcast, it's a black background. You've got Conan in red and orange, kind of silhouetted. It's really nice.
Last issue. That's why it's the end. The 9.2, I'm happy with the 9.2. It was bent all the heck in this box. It was in a box of random comics I won at an auction, and I just saw this in there. It was sealed with some chintzy. Oh, here it is. I have it here. Some chintzy certificate of authenticity from some local comic shop. But obviously, it is Roy Thomas's signature, and it was great to have
Did you
that.
send the COA in with the book?
I did, and they sent it back to me.
Oh,
So
excellent.
that's a nice, and I threw it in the bag, the poly bag here. Very nice experience with CBCS. I know we sound like shills. I apologize for talking about how happy we are so much because it sounds like we're getting paid.
Well,
We're
I tell you what, let's talk bad about CGC instead. Uh,
you said it first. I was trying my best not to
my
mention
my book, my reholder that you had submitted to me uh,
WonderCon.
at WonderCon, it's still scratch scheduled for grading a month later.
You gotta call him. You gotta call him when you get a chance this week. You gotta nudge it. Sometimes you gotta call and nudge them. And
Yeah,
then
fortunately, it's just it's not an important book to me. But I would like to get it back. Thank you very much.
it would be nice. I have a mechanical error that's ASM 301 that I FedEx to them on their dime. To their credit, it's still not showing up as received yet, but we'll see. Somebody told me something. You guys tell me if this is true. If you have a mechanical error slab and they authorize it and they send you the shipping label to ship it on their dime, you can throw in a regular submission in the same box
Really?
and they'll take it. So you don't have to pay for shipping and it gets received quicker because it's an ME on the outside when you mark it as mechanical error.
That is gaming the system. I love it.
Someone said that in the chat and I thought, I'm not going to risk it. But tell me if you guys have successfully done this because I will do it in the future for sure. All right. What's your first show and tell?
My first show and tell, X-Men 157. Going through my X-Men books. This is that awesome run where this is Dark Phoenix on the cover, and there's word bubbles on here. This is one of the reasons I pulled it because you've got word bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
Those just don't happen very much. It's Phoenix, but she's dead. Surely you know that a Phoenix dies only to be reborn again. And this is intergalactic X-Men. You got the Shi'ar Empire there, all those people in the background. So it's
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 kind of
it's
newsy.
yeah, and it's a newsie. So it's one of my I love this era of the X-Men, and I will probably pull one of each issue through the course of us doing show and tell. But it's a great book.
No spoilers, but when you know who that really is by reading the story, obviously it's not Jean Grey. And then you look at the cover, you're like, oh, it's obvious that, it's who it is. I don't
Mm.
want to say here, some people still may not have read that classic run, but, kind of flat. That gives it away.
And I have to say that that costume is just killer. It's
Dave,
just
Dave Cockrum, man, he was a great designer. I mean, you cannot argue with that. That reminds me, Phoenix and the X-Men. I told everybody I reread the Grant Morrison run
mhm.
uh, last week. I forgot to mention this when I was talking about this. I remember how I was defending this run and how much I liked it. There
Right.
is one major thing that I hate about it. Now that I remember, you've never read the whole run.
Mm-mm.
Such a spoiler. I hate the resolution of Zorn. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
So it's just so stupid. It makes no sense. And people in the chat, the live chat, or in the comments, we'll talk in the comments so we don't spoil it for everybody. Tell me what you thought about the resolution of Zorn. I thought it was really dumb.
Okay. I am a super super uber geek because Zorn to me is a D&D monster. So
ZORN or XORN?
oh boy, that's a good question. I
The,
believe it is ZORN.
the X-Men is XORN,
Okay.
and he
Maybe
has
it's
a star for a head.
monster with a big
Yep.
mouth for a head.
I have another book for show and tell. It's something that I picked up again at my LCS for Free Comic Book Day. It was not free, but it is worth every friggin' penny. It is the Atlas Comics Library, #2, Venus.
Oh, you got it. Excellent.
Published by Fantagraphics under license from Marvel. Marvel is smart. We're not going to do these reprints anymore, the Atlas stuff. Let's let Fantagraphics do it. And if they're going to pick a company to do it, you have your IDWs and people like that. Fantagraphics is the perfect home for this material because this is done with such care. The cover, see the spot varnish on the
Yeah.
cover? It was so well done. Beautiful, just really good essay that starts it off, talks about this book. Volume 1 is issue 1 through 9, which was actually done by the Marvel Masterworks. Marvel did it themselves.
Mhm.
It's a different size, it's a different format. It looks like the Marvel Masterworks. It matches on your shelf. The OCD in me should be upset that this does not match volume 1. I don't care. It's so beautiful. It's larger size. The artwork is painstakingly remastered and done. The coloring is great. Everything is in here. Just a fantastic, fantastic job. Venus 19 is in here. I've never had it. Let me get the cover here. I've never actually had a chance to read Venus 19 ever before.
Oh, you said 1 through 9?
1 through 9 is volume 1, which
Okay,
Marvel did. This reprints issues 10 through 19, which we've been
got
waiting years for this. 19 is, I never knew in issue 19, she's not in costume. She's
it. Oh,
just wearing civilian clothes. So there must have been a new direction that they were going to go into at that point. Just so beautifully done. $49.99.
oh,
Worth every friggin' penny. I'm so
absolutely.
glad I got this. Shout out to Ryan at Pulp Fiction for the hookup on this. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. If I have one quibble, it is the choice of cover. Why would you use this cover instead of this cover?
That's a good question.
So, like I said, a minor, minor quibble. Other than that, it's a beautiful set, beautiful, well done, highly recommended. And that's my show and tell. Anything else from you?
Yeah, I'm gonna do one that I've shown before. Air Pirates, #1. And the reason why I'm showing is I'm planning on submitting this to CBCS.
They're doing undergrounds now.
Yes, they're doing underground. So this is in great condition. It's probably a 9.4 if I was to grade it. I pressed it and cleaned it, and it's ready to go. Um, I paid $100 for it.
No, you didn't. I was there.
Oh
You
yeah.
made, you made an offer. You had that in a stack of books with a Gru and something else, and you made an offer, and the guy took it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry to correct you.
Yeah, this is at San Diego during the COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I've had this for a couple years. And people who don't know the story of Air Pirates, it's the people have illegally used Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is selling drugs. You can see the little bags there on the back. There it says dope on the plane. So yeah, Disney was not happy with these people, and they said that's too bad because they continue to sell this. So interesting book. I love the fact that it's kind of that snub to Disney. So it's going off to get graded.
Richard,
Hmm.
can you and I publish a new Air Pirates funny series?
If
Now
we use that Steamboat Willie,
Steamboat Mickey, and I don't know if the Air Pirates guy can technically sue us because he was
that would be that would be an interesting set of ironic
now
things.
he's doing fentanyl. Uh, oh man. Wow. I don't even know what to say to that except for just to go right into the transition to viewer mail.
You've got
Yeah,
mail.
first piece of viewer mail comes to us from a friend of the show, Matt Hexamer. Hi, Matt. Talking about what I mentioned, the Incredible Hercules series last week. The Incredible Hercules series was so very, very good. It was such a fantastic surprise. Great concept, great stories, so underrated. Matt, you're preaching to the choir. There are collections available. I highly, highly recommend it. It is a great read. Usually I moan and complain that it didn't last longer and it should have run for years and years. I think getting almost 4 years out of a Hercules solo series is pretty darn good. I'm not going to complain. It ran a lot longer than it probably should have. So thanks, Matt. I'm glad you agree. All right, Richard, what you got?
My first piece of viewer mail is from Xbox Gamer 3389. Richard is a man of culture. Okay, we can stop right there.
I agree.
A fantastic copy of Jungle 78. I want a few Jungle books for my collection, but I'm not sure what to get. There's really nice LB Cole ones. Ruler is my favorite. Zoot 11 is another. I've been looking for the right copy. Yep, they're all great books. I have a copy of Zoot 11 that a friend of the show um, got helped me get. You'll never know where to look for these books. So keep your eyes open because it's important to be ready to buy them. Yeah, Jungle 78 is a great book. I'm glad you say I'm a man of culture. I will make sure I'll tell my wife that because she thinks I'm a pervert because I have all these bondage books. But I just I love the women in peril concept of these books, and they're just so interesting to look at to see. Okay, there's a woman in peril, and there's always some man trying to save her, and it's this interesting juxtaposition of those roles.
No one ever tries to save Doll Man in his hot pants when he's in bondage. He's on his own.
He is on his own. Yeah.
Poor Doll Man. Uh, so out of whack, out of order. Apologies for that. The editing OCD guy in me is saying that because my next piece of viewer mail comes from Tales from My Spinner Rack, which, by the way, if you are not subscribed to Tales from My Spinner Rack, the YouTube channel, correct that right now. Go over there. He has a great historical comic book YouTube channel, podcast, however you want to refer to it. The man was at San Diego Comic Con when stuff happened. It highly, highly recommended. And he writes from 5 days ago, love that Venus cover. I'm assuming you're aware of Fantagraphics Atlas Comic Library reprint series. I just picked up volume 2 today featuring Venus number 10 through 19. Hope to see you guys at SDCC. Absolutely, Tales from My Spinner Rack. And I want to thank you because you are the one that I could not remember who tipped me off to this book existing. I had no idea that this was out until I saw this comment from you. So I showed it off earlier, but thank you, thank you, thank you. And everybody go check out Tales from My Spinner Rack on YouTube.
My next piece of viewer mail is from Jabrez Creed, who left a YouTube comment that said, I think we are steadily on the path to a primarily European style graphic novel format and market. The price points between single issue and trade paperback are growing closer. The format is already popular overseas. The writing is largely for the trade now, and miniseries are becoming 4 and 5 issues now. I think the discerning reader will prefer the deluxe format and convenient package of a single story, or look at DC's couple of Batman-centric anthologies. I can imagine those as $15, 60-page or 90-page anthologies every month. And he brings up a good point. Yeah, as the price of single issues continues to go up, we're $6 for a single issue comic. The price of graphic novels are becoming more and more attractive. 15, $20 for a graphic novel that includes 6 issues of a story is a lot cheaper than paying for the retail price of those comics. On the shelf. So it's an interesting concept. Are we approaching that? Because I can't see us continuing to increase the price of single issues to $7, $8, and there's going to be a point where it just is not sustainable. People will start rejecting. I think if they change to a different format and use that as a way of being able to push forward these stories, and as opposed to the single issues, I could see that happening. So
I wonder if you flipped it on its ear like the music industry does. Okay, you do a box set of the Cars,
okay.
every like all 5 Cars album in a box set. We used to do that at my old job. And you let people buy that want to buy it. And then about 6 months to a year later, you break them out. Here's the first album by itself. Here's Candio by itself. Here's Panorama. Over you drip it out over a few months, and then you've got less cost because you've already remastered it, prepared it, got the art redone, everything. You're just reprinting the single ones to order out there. So if there was like a Batman anthology that came out twice a year and it was, you know, 200 pages and it
Mm.
cost $29.99, and then they broke out the Joker story as a single issue, the Harley story as a single issue, the Robin story. The art's already done, paid for. You're paying the reprint fee only at that point. Is that a sustainable business model? Best of both worlds.
Yeah, especially if you could have, just like that beautiful book you just showed. If you could have a really attractive packaging for those single issues, uh, to entice people to buy it a second time because it's just so attractive. I think that's a really interesting business model.
It could be a complete flop. Someone's got to have run the analysis and see what retailers think of it, because it could just be a pie in the sky idea, and somebody's got to have the guts to actually try it. That's the thing. Probably an independent before Marvel or DC would try something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
My last piece of your mail comes to us from our email address at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from Steve V. Regarding the question of 3D glasses included with Dave Stevens comics or other add-ons like tattoos, etc., I have a comic I've been wondering about. I've had this copy of The Real Ghostbusters from Marvel UK, which predates Now Comics Real Ghostbusters #1 by a few months. The comic originally came with a free badge and button taped to the front cover. When I bought the issue off eBay a few years ago from a seller in the UK, they included the button with the purchase. There aren't any copies on the CGC census yet. Do you guys think CGC should grade this as qualified if the button isn't included in the submission? Take off points for tape on the cover. Obviously, they can't slap the button, but it would be incomplete in some collectors' eyes? Question mark. Anywho, thought it was interesting. We'll find out CGC's decision soon enough since I dropped it off at WonderCon. And it's currently in the grading encapsulation phase. Well, if we see from Richard, it might be there for a long time. But I didn't send the button along with it, and now I'm getting nervous. Best, Steve V. Steve, thanks for writing in. Let us know, because it's May 6th now. You should know what's going on with it, hopefully. I know from my experience, Doctor Who Weekly #1 that I had slabbed, it was included transfers that were taped to the cover. They docked me in the grader's notes for tape on the cover. Guys, it's production. It's not, yeah, it was messed up. I've never questioned it. I never sent it back. I don't care. So Steve, let us know because we're really curious what the result will be.
Yeah, and frankly, I'm glad you didn't send the button in because there's no guarantee you have gotten it back.
They're probably wearing it around. Hey, nice kicks. Nice button.
Nice button on your kicks.
Kicks. All right. What's your last piece of viewer mail?
My last piece is from John Cox E3703.
What about my what?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, love the show, guys. I always thought the big thing about newsstands wasn't that they were scarce. It was that in theory they sat on a shelf and were handled by employees and the public that weren't actual comic shops or comic book people in theory. So finding one in higher grade theoretically is much harder, which I guess the scarcity of it isn't the number of newsstands produced, but the number that would be 9.8s that survived the newsstand selling process. That is a great distinction because there is that whole as time went on, the number of newsstands decreased, and the number of that were published decreased. But I think you're right. The actual value isn't in the number that were printed, but the number that actually survived in high grade. Because I remember these books on the newsstand, and they were stacked You had a stack of them on the shelf, and then right on top of them, slightly to the right, was another stack of books. Then they continued that way on the rack, and people would pull them off and they would read them. Sometimes they would knock them over trying to get access to other books. You get kids who were eating pizza that would come in and read the books. These books were not protected like the way the direct comic books that were sold in comic book shops were protected. These, this neighborhood Lawsons or drugstores or you know
Oh, we
dairy dairy marts,
didn't
places
even
like
talk
that.
about spinner racks. I mean,
Oh
talk
yeah,
tales for my spinner rack. I mean, what was the one thing you did as a kid when you had a spinner rack in front of you? You bent everything down to see what was behind the books in the front.
yeah. It's surprising, and you're right. I think that's the real value. I'm thank you for helping me recenter on that concept. That the real value in these newsstands is really those high grade ones that manage to survive the gauntlet, and, and especially 40 years later, are 9/8.
I think it's a combo. I don't think it's either or. I think it's when you get into the 2000s, especially like the books from 2010, like the Last Gasp, Ultimate Fallout 4, super scarcity plus the shelf damage from being on the newsstand. That's when
Right.
you really just multiplies. I think you're going to find, like your X-Men that you showed earlier, you're going to find more of those newsstands in higher grade because even though it was on the newsstand, people were collectors still
Mhm.
buying X-Men and treasuring it. So,
That's still 40 years ago.
yeah,
So
40 years ago. Don't you mean 25 years ago?
oh, 25 years is a long time for comics to survive as well.
Let's just go to the 25-year rule. Hey, it's a transition. It's a segue. 25-year rule this week. Richard, I don't know. This is kind of a twofer for you. Fantastic Four 99. What the heck is this? Well, for a couple of years in the late 90s, Marvel stopped the sequential numbering on their annuals and just referred to them by the year. So there was Fantastic Four 98. Here's Fantastic Four 99. Probably make them sell like their number one issues instead of Fantastic Four annual number 33. This is the Fantastic Four annual for 1999, written by Chris Claremont as
Oh,
part of his Fantastic Four run. So, of course, it's Chris Claremont. It's going to center around the Hellfire Club because he can't stay away. Uh, Whatever. I loved the art of Jose Ladron. Jose Ladron, for the people that don't know, he took Jack Kirby and Mobius,
mm,
threw them in a blender, and you got highly detailed, highly stylized art. The figures look like Jack Kirby drawing square fingers, squiggly lines, and yet they would be in these hugely Mobius, intricately detailed backgrounds. Um, Beautiful stuff. I really loved his run on cable. There was a time when it was Joe Casey and Jose Ladron on cable, and I was buying and reading frigging cable. What?
yeah, that's pretty drastic.
What planet am I on? Of course, the minute Jose and Joe Casey left, I left cable. Bye, boring. For this Fantastic Four annual 99, you can grab a raw copy for around $5 on eBay. Richard, did you ever read Chris Claremont's run on FF?
I did not. Is it worth reading?
I think so, especially for you because you get their daughter, the Franklin Richards' sister is born, Valeria. You get a lot of Doctor Doom in this run. It was after Heroes Reborn. This was Heroes Return. You have Claremont with, Salvador Larroca before he became the hacky Salvador Larroca that we complained about on that Star Wars book a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
So you might want to check it out,
Yeah.
at least digitally. See if you know get the Hellfire Club. You get Celine. You get all your favorites. Because you can't take Chris Claremont without his Claremontisms. I have to have women in lingerie being dominatrixes.
You gotta have it.
I guess so. Underrated books of the week, Richard. You start off. What the heck is this thing?
Yeah, I picked up. I've been trying to read newer comics. I have this bad habit of sticking with characters and stories that I'm familiar with. So I purposely picked something here. It's called Hexware #1. It's from Image Comics back in 2022, and it's a good story. It's about an android who makes a deal with the devil for a soul,
Hmm.
and she is now tasked with capturing people and sending them to hell.
Hmm.
Tim Seeley is the writer. Zulema Scotto Lavina and Valentina Cuomo are the artists on this book. And the art is what I really want to highlight. It is amazing. It is very uh, stylized, and it has so much detail in it that you could spend time. You have to spend time kind of digesting it to really get the full benefit of it. And it's a very interesting story. If you like the book, if you like to read the book, there is a Googled version of the books where you can read probably about the first half of the book. I threw in the show notes a link to it, and I hope John will add that to the show notes. Or you can get a trade paperback for $15, not very expensive. That has all 6 issues of the series, and it's to me it's worth reading, and it's worth picking up, and it's a completely different storyline with characters that I don't know, artists that I don't know, and I'm not familiar with Tim Seeley, so I'm trying to expand my horizons a little bit by picking something outside of my normal comfort zone.
Good for you. You're being adventurous. I'm trying to be adventurous. I'm going to read that Valiant Free Comic Book Day. Tell you what I think, but I like the cover on this.
Yes, yes, and it's very indicative of the art in the book.
Okay, check it out. All Venus, all the time on Bronze and Modern Gods. At least for me, my underrated book this week is Lana #4 from Timely Comics, Marvel Comics, 1949. This is another of what seems like those endless women focused titles from Timely in the late 40s and 50s. I mean, you had Millie the Model, Tessie the Typist, Nellie the Nurse, Patsy Walker, of course.
Mhm.
What's unique about this issue of Lana is that it features a short 4-page Venus story that
Oh,
was left over in inventory after Venus was canceled with issue 3. What's that you say? Venus was canceled with issue 3. Yes, that's right. Venus was originally canceled with issue 3, along with Nemora and Sun Girl, all those books they launched at the same time and ended very quickly. But for Venus, sales must have been good because 5 months later, Martin Goodman must have looked at the sales figures and went, wait, that Venus book was actually selling. And they brought it back with issue 4 5 months later.
mhm.
So they were burning off remaining inventory and then they decided to bring it back. It's like, oh crap, we got to get new stories in here. For Lana, underrated. I don't think people know there's a Venus story hiding in here. The most recent GPA sale was for a CGC 4.5 that sold in 2021, the height of the comic boom, for $84 for a Venus story from 1949. What the heck, people? So go get your Lanas now. Mine's got a nasty, nasty dust shadow.
I see. Yeah.
I'm happy with it. Looks good. Never slabbed it. Don't think I'm gonna because I want to have that Venus story. The Venus story that is featured in Lana #4 is also included in volume 1 of the hardback that reprints issues 1 through 9, along with a 2-page Venus story that was in Marvel Mystery Comics #90. Everything you've ever wanted to know about Venus,
From the subject matter expert.
all in one podcast. Can't beat it. She's my Venus. She's my fire. What's your desire?
Bananarama.
I know. Or Shocking Blue, if you like the original Swedish version. Hey, that is the end of this episode. Woohoo, wah wah. We'll be back though. If you're a member, we'll see you on Wednesday and then on Thursday for the live stream. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, John. Everybody, stay safe.
Read a new comic.